We're gonna hit a critical level with this mana problem in this dungeon. There's just no Baruth coming anytime soon.
Go of our memories,
Eat up.
our identities, our loved ones, all in the name of service. But what do we serve?
It's a lot of periods.
An impotent arbiter, an oppressive law. Our sacrifices were made for nothing.
You gonna get this fucking... What's going on here? Why do I have threat on this mob? Nope. Okay, see you later. So I feel like you gotta watch it again. It's hard to even tell what actually upset this individual, but he first starts typing a bunch of periods, and the only thing anybody could think of is that all three of them hit each other with quaking here. Yeah, I mean, your shield didn't even get broken. You don't even have like Sogadon yet. I don't even know. It's literally no danger whatsoever. I'm not really sure what the issue is. You see, I'm actually sitting here eating. I asked for mage food. I should have got it before the dungeon, but I forgot. I mean, maybe he's mad that I forgot to get mage food and I'm asking for it in the middle of the dungeon. I have absolutely no idea. But then the quaking comes and pretty much 4 of us are all in one area, which is not that uncommon considering how the flight mechanic works going from platform to platform there. And then everybody gets hit and basically nobody takes any damage whatsoever. And then here comes the periods. I mean, it's a really silly thing to say. If you can't even vocalize some level of frustration other than just spamming a single key, then you're probably not very emotionally intelligent as it is. But then it gets even stranger. So we pull this pack and this dude immediately starts, I mean, you can't really see, but you can see, I'm sure, this dude starts going absolutely berserks mode, does 12k DPS within 1 global of the pack being pulled. Like, the dude hasn't even gotten a few globals off on the pack yet at this point, the Demon Hunter. And honestly, I played with this guy in the prior key too. He played a different tank. He was not very alert. I didn't feel like this guy was the best tank I had played with in a long time, but I mean, it's not really that hard to keep threat. It's a Demon Hunter, I'd imagine, so I'm sure he's going to reestablish threat. But you see these mobs are running right towards this guy whose damage is only going up at this point, and he's going to get threat on one of them back, I guess. He taunted it back or something like that, and the other one is just out there attacking him. So I mean, that's literally the only thing I could see. His damage continues to just keep rising, and I think, what does he fear the mob? Because the mob's not attacking him anymore. But yeah, you can actually see it in the bottom corner of the screen there. So you see, yeah, he uses like Mortal Coil or whatever the spell is called now. It fears the mob off him. And I don't even notice it at all. Like in real time, I had to watch this like 2 or 3 times to figure out what actually happened. But you can actually see, and I see my webcam's blocking it. But you can actually see here that the mob is actually traveling back towards him. So this is now probably like 10 seconds or so, and the guy hasn't gotten threat. Of course, I have multiple ways to save this guy. There's no issue whatsoever. This guy is in no danger. We have 25 minutes at this point. We're doing perfectly fine on time. This is a tyrannical week as well, which is a much easier timer than fortified week in here, and it's a 20. And so then the guy says hello, and the Demon Hunter basically, I mean, honestly, I wouldn't even say replies sarcastically. I think he genuinely, the guy wasn't the most aware tank, let's put it that way, because this mob's over here attacking me as well. So this mob is just attacking me because of healing threat, and this mob is back here attacking the Warlock. So I genuinely would not be surprised if this guy just didn't actually realize that mob was still on me. But frankly, this guy did, like, you know, he did exactly what you don't want to see a DPS do. That's go absolutely berserks mode on the pull. Blood DK, it's a massive issue. I would have been frustrated as well if I was tanking, but luckily as a blood DK, I could have easily gotten that back off him. But that guy doesn't even hesitate, leaves the party, and it opens the door to talk about 3 different things. Honestly, I don't know how Blizzard continues to allow this to happen. So that's one of this is honestly the perfect example. This, every once in a while we have something happen that just makes it so easy to talk about something I want to talk about, and that I kind of always never have a good example for. But so 3 things really come to mind here. And one, I've been playing a lot of Alliance, and it's just so freaking clear to me how different the Horde mentality is for playing with other players and doing difficult content as well. That's number 1. Then the second thing is just gotta stop inviting people who are overqualified to keys. Like, it's really so obvious to me. There's no reason to invite this guy. We're doing a 20. I mean, this guy's got 22s on both difficulties. He does not need that key for any reason. I don't even know why he signs up, but the guy didn't say a single word the whole dungeon. He did actually mention something about having the wrong soul binds or talents or something like that. So it honestly kind of makes me think back. There was a funny moment where in BFA, Atal Dazar, we played with a demon hunter who was really upset that he didn't get a pre-meta on the key. The guy didn't do a countdown. He just put his key in, which, I mean, I get it. It's not ideal, but then the guy gets the first mechanic on the boss and he just leaves over it. Like, he just doesn't even want to play after that. And so I could imagine that this is probably the same thing. This guy is so disinterested in this key because he simply has the wrong like soul bind or conduit or something like that. He has like 1 out of 10 interest. And then as soon as anything remotely goes wrong, he's just going to take that as an opportunity to leave. So that's really the second thing to talk about. Just stop inviting people who are overqualified for your keys. They don't care about your key. And especially on Horde, they have no remorse. They're just going to completely treat every situation antisocially, be completely unhinged, off the handle type players. So I hope everybody can just learn that lesson because it happens on both factions. But then the final thing I want to talk about is just like, man, how is it possible that Blizzard hasn't taken action here? So the other two things to talk about, it's like the alliance thing as well. So let's talk a little bit about the alliance thing first, because maybe you guys don't actually know this, but I was playing Horde forever, like my whole life, basically since I was in college. 2007, started playing Horde. It was all I really knew. Made a lot of really long-lasting connections. Those connections started to become frayed, no longer existed, felt a lot less connected to the situation I was in on my main character. But the number one reason why I stopped playing my Horde characters and probably won't play them again until 9.25 is because of stuff like this. This was happening constantly. At this point, I have an entire playlist of stuff like this. Go ahead and check it out. There's dozens of videos in this playlist where people make an absolute fool out of themselves, act like utter children, like this guy right here, leaves over absolutely nothing. He didn't even die. He just had threat. Like, I mean, have you ever played a DPS before? People have threat all the time when I'm tanking. It's not a problem. Sometimes you take a little bit extra damage. Sometimes I'm slow to react. Sometimes a mistake happens and you die. Guess what? You're here to upgrade the key, aren't you? 24 minutes, absolutely crushing this. No, of course not. That's not why he's here at all. We already talked about that. But a pretty weird moment happened. I was kind of disillusioned with a lot of the stuff that was happening, and I did some more keys just kind of because it's kind of my job at that point. Didn't really have any passion in doing it. And one of the first keys of the day, I queued into a Necrotic Wake 22. Was a very easy week at the time. Should have been an easy double upgrade, if not an easy upgrade at least. And we pulled Incinerator Arcalath, and the healer dies to the fire patch. But he basically dies like multiple times to Arcalath. We're like 5 minutes into the dungeon, right? Because I'm going in, getting him around the left side and pulling him back. Like, we're like 5 minutes into a double upgrade key. You could probably die 10 or 15 times and still have a good chance of double upgrading that. In fact, somewhere else on the channel, you'll see I actually have a 30 death Necrotic Wake upgrade. And the demon hunter in the group, he leaves. Just straight up leaves. And I don't remember if I whispered him or somebody whispered him or something got said afterwards. Yeah, basically he was like, I'm not playing with this guy. And it's like, okay, the guy made a couple mistakes, dude. Have you ever done something dumb? Of course you have. But it's just so weird. Like, why are you even in the key? If you're this willing to just abandon it, it's such a freaking easy key. You could make an infinite amount of mistakes. It's really hard to believe. But then the worst part about it was people actually tried to defend that guy leaving. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again in this video. And whether or not anybody thinks they're right or thinks I'm wrong or whatever the reality of the situation is, I'm just done with it. I just don't care anymore. Most of these players in this situation are not people you can educate. They're too either angry or unintelligent to see past their own egos. And it is absolutely killing this game. But honestly, it's completely not existent on Alliance. So I had an opportunity to play on Alliance. I took it, and I've been there for about 8 weeks now. And I have said multiple times, I am not looked back once. After about 8 weeks of pretty much solid 4 days of stream keys, I honestly don't think I could think of a single situation that is even remotely similar to this. And I've seen this dozens of times in the last 1 year alone. There's only really been 3 times where anybody actually left a key for a stupid reason. I remember we were doing like a Darkheart Thicket 12 back when Legion Time Walking was there, and we wiped on like the first pack of the dungeon and the healer left, and it's just like, well, whatever, that guy was probably just farming gear, he doesn't care, whatever. I mean, that's kind of agitating, but it's such a low key that I just don't even really care. Then there was a guy who was like super elitist, which isn't something I've seen a lot on Alliance, but obviously those people are out there. The guy wasn't even like actually playing the role that he's accomplished on. He was like some accomplished healer playing Resto Shaman, which wow, that's a really hard thing to do nowadays. And he was playing Enhancement Shaman in, again, a Necrotic Wake. And I made some mistakes as the tank, and he just started riding me for the entire key. Like one of those situations where you literally press a spell and he's commenting on me pressing the spell. But I think I handled my cool pretty well. We finished the key, we upgraded the key, and the guy talked shit about me the whole dungeon. Meanwhile, he was like 6k overall, like clearly had no idea what he was doing. And just another great example of why you don't invite overqualified players. In that case, it was because not only does he look overqualified, but he's not even actually qualified. He had no idea what he was doing as it hands. He was worse DPS. He was below me on multiple packs. But that one was pretty bad, but that's literally the only one like that. And then the only other situation was some priest failed his invis pot. He looked like he was lagging. I was actually going to make a clip of that too, but to be fair, I did aggro Arcalath while he was still running in the invis. I frankly did not know that would actually break out his invis pot, so I will take some of the blame there, but that guy was like 30 seconds behind the group. I have no idea what he was doing. He must have been lagging or something. I could have possibly saved that situation, but there's no reason that he should be so behind the group when we're making the invis pot there. But he did get mad at me and then left. I couldn't even figure out why until I realized that Arcalath actually does break people out of the invis pot while they're still running. But that's literally it. Those three are the only ones I can remember. There's been a couple bad groups and maybe even some bad disbands, but this kind of thing where somebody just has this insane ego and they just think that the entire group is there to service their interests, I have not seen that really a single time. And maybe that shaman situation I described could be somewhat similar, but that guy stayed the whole time. Even though he basically made me want to leave the key, he didn't leave the key, man. And it might sound weird, but that's really valuable to me, especially when I'm streaming. I only have so many hours I plan on doing keys. So if we just keep disbanding and not getting anything done, I feel like I got nothing there to give you guys for content there. Like, you've come to see me do keys, not keep failing because idiots just leave. So it's frustrating for a lot of reasons, but it's just really annoying because it's so silly. Like, I wish I was keeping the stats on the Alliance character because I guarantee you my success rate is higher simply because there's less disbands. And maybe that sounds obvious, but it doesn't really make any sense why people don't think in those dimensions. Like in this case, we turned an upgrade into a disband, right? It's not like we turned a failed key into a disband, which you would think would be more common. Groups aren't doing well. People don't want to sit in the dungeon for an hour, even though it's a 40-minute timer. But this is literally a key that we're going to upgrade, now turned into a disband instead of just a completion or a finish or whatever. And there's just really no excuse for it. So that comes to the third thing. Blizzard, please save this game, man. I can't understand how they're still in this mindset, but I just want to real quickly summarize where I'm at with this. This is not the first time I've thought about this, guys. I've been thinking about this since Legion. I have videos on the channel about this since Legion. I remember making a video about some guy leaving. Actually, I think it was a guy that had paid for a boost, an IO boost in Karazhan. I have that memory in my head or something like that. And I remember making a video on that. That's still on the channel. If you want to go dig it up, you can. I made multiple videos like this. So it's been something I've been talking about for like 5 years now. So I've seen every iteration of the discussion. And at one time I was on the side of what a lot of people keep saying, that somebody should be punished for this happening, that this guy should be punished, right? And I have clear, I would say indisputable evidence that this guy just completely screwed this group over. And in my opinion, you enter a social contract when you join this group, especially now that you can set like whether it's completion or time or something like that. And if you actively deride that social contract, then yeah, there should be repercussions. But Blizzard really needs to step up and take some kind of action, and it's just not gonna they're just not able to punish people for this. From their point of view, there's no real way to police whether or not this guy left for a good reason. I mean, he didn't really even say anything. There wasn't even an argument. It's not like we got into some kind of flame war, but the action of simply just not doing a key with the group anymore is just not something they care about. And I could see why, because they just can't police these types of social interactions, and that's what they classify this as. If people get in arguments and they don't break any actual game rules, then there's nothing that Blizzard can do about that. So there's just no real way to punish this guy. Now, there are ways to change the Keystone system to accommodate some way that could punish this guy. Like if you did some kind of group making system that was automated by Blizzard, then yeah, if somebody doesn't stay for the whole key, maybe there could be punishment. But that doesn't really work either. No matter what iteration you can come up with, it won't work because these people, they're not leaving for real reasons. They're doing it to be selfish and vindictive. You don't want that situation. You haven't thought it through all the way. What's going to happen is that same childish person who got put into this group that he really had no interest in being in just to test something out, it didn't work out how he wanted to, so now he's just going to leave for no reason. That dude's going to actually just go out of his way to spite the group instead. Potentially maybe even going to stay in the group and just argue for 20 minutes instead of play. Might just go straight up AFK. Might just leave the dungeon but not the group. There's a lot of variables here, and it just doesn't really make a lot of sense because it's a lot of work on Blizzard's end to try to fix a problem that's just kind of bad for a lot of different reasons. So ultimately, I outlined an idea in that video, and I will quickly summarize it again. What I think the best solution here is to simply add some kind of currency to the completion of dungeons. Now, to be fair, they are kind of doing that in Season 3. I don't think it's really going to make that big of an impact, but it's a very similar system to what we had at the end of Battle for Azeroth, and that definitely did help keep players in keys for longer. But what I would think would be a really cool idea is some way that you could actually augment your Keystone. So I had originally offered 3 suggestions for a currency. The acquisition of said currency will be based on the key level you do. Maybe there could be more variables in how you acquire it, but obviously you'd get more for the higher keys. And what I would say is a low amount of this currency could be spent to re-roll your key. Now, of course, they've already implemented a system that allows you to re-roll your key, but this was back in BFA. So now that you can re-roll your key, this becomes less valuable, but maybe there's some other thing you can do with this low amount of currency. But then the real one is medium amount of currency to protect your Keystone. And so say it takes like 150 of a currency and you get maybe 100 per dungeon, and maybe the amount of currency you need to protect the Keystone is also based on the Keystone. I don't really know, but either way, you apply this protection to the Keystone. So when you do the key, if it doesn't upgrade, you still have that same key. It doesn't go down. And if you want to reapply it, then you have to apply more and more currency. And what this does is get people doing other people's keys to completion the whole way because they need the currency to do their own key. They're doing other people's keys to find success in their key. And that is a theme, especially for this third part, which I know was controversial when I said back then, but I think this would dramatically improve the amount of people's completion rates like this. A high amount of the currency spent to upgrade your key. And frankly, I don't really see a problem with this. I don't really understand why the Keystone system is in the game, but maybe you could make it a caveat that the key that you have can only be upgraded to whatever the highest level you finished is or something like that, because I really hate like when a key goes down a level and then I just have no interest in doing it. It'd be really nice to just be able to go run other people's keys and then reinvigorate my key back to the level I want it. It sounds like a great idea to me. Obviously, they're not going to do this because it's just too convoluted probably, and they've already kind of solved some of these issues, but probably the easiest way to solve this problem is just make the score actually matter, man. Right now, they did take a step towards it where there's a tyrannical score and a fortified score, which is really good. Getting people to care about more sets of affixes is a really nice thing, and especially because those 2 affixes have been insanely imbalanced in the past, it's actually really nice to see them try to mend that bridge. However, I don't see why they shouldn't just take it one step further. And I actually drafted up a Mythic Plus scoring system that we were going to implement when me and Siler were making a website back in BFA as well that ultimately fell through. I was proposing having 3 different scores. One, the progression score that we have now. Just like in a lot of content, you know, most people are only after progression. All they really care about is killing that boss that first time, and then they don't really care about ever doing it again. And that's great if you want to chase that. If you're just kind of chasing glory, then there's your progression score. That's what we have currently. It's only based on your highest key. That's the only thing that really matters. I also would really like to see as a second element of that a completion score, a score that counts no matter what, gives you credit for keys. And honestly, that's kind of just what the currency I originally was talking about here could be as well. You don't necessarily need a score to do this. And I also like how the Raider.io add-on has historically shown more information, like how many dungeons this person has finished of a certain threshold, and that helps too. But very few people look at it, and I think for some reason they're locked in on this whole scoring concept, so it seemed like a smart idea at the time. Basically, just give 1 point for every key you do and make that number, that one number, scale based on the key level. So if you did a 20, you'd get 20 points. And by the end of the season, you'd have 1,000,000 points accrued, and you can compare that to all the other people who are doing keys, and it would make it really easy to see who's actively doing keys and not just trying to hop from group to group for progression. But the final one would be an affix-based score. So a third score altogether that would basically be a weekly score. And I think we originally drafted it as a weekly score, meaning it would reset every single week and would really encourage you to actually play actively each week, because especially at the time, there was this massive disparity between difficulty of keys. It's so freaking obvious to me. Raider.io just taking the easy way out, and they're just like, well, this is Blizzard's problem to fix the disparity in keys. We can't possibly adjust our score score to accommodate for this, but it's like you're just kind of misleading people. You know, you created this weird environment. Like imagine if that's how it worked with raiding. Like if the world first races groups, they just waited until like an easier version of the final boss was coming around in a few weeks to kill the boss the first time. It's like that's clearly a different environment. I think everybody who participates would recognize that and understand that. So it's really strange to understand that they had no culpability with the scoring system not accounting for that. But now that they handed over to Blizzard, it does seem like Blizzard has a better recognition of that, and they've been trying to balance the affixes more too. Of course, that's one way to solve it, but I do think no matter how much you balance it, it's still very obvious that two different keys with different affixes can be very different experiences. And just because you've done it on one week does not mean you're qualified to do it on another week. So if we're grading people based on that, then we should be grading them on the whole picture. But like I said, they have already started doing that with Tyrannical. Tyrannical and Fortified are definitely the biggest gradient. Like doing a Tyrannical Spires and doing a Fortified Spires, it is an incredibly different experience. So I'm really glad that they're actually taking that into account. But yeah, it's really sad. I came back to Horde for like 5 minutes and I was already basically, I did 2 streams on my Horde Paladin and it made me want to just transfer, and it's not a character I want to do that on, man, because I have a lot of stuff going on. This character's still the GM of the guild and everything, so I just really don't want to lose that. But it makes me think I just can't play this character because it's just so frustrating now that I've seen the greener pasture. And even though, you know, people are probably less qualified overall on Alliance and maybe less progressive in general, it doesn't really matter to me, man, because the keys at times are so easy. I just need you to stay. I just need you to do your best for 40 minutes and we upgrade this key, like guaranteed. Stop wasting my time because of your stupid ego, your petty squabble with nothing, with something that does not even matter to the success of the content that you willingly signed up for. It is so offensive to me. I can't express this enough. And I thought when I started making videos like this, I thought it would help. I thought it would make me feel better, almost like therapy, but I'm just so freaking sick of it, man. I can't do another key where some dude thinks he's more valuable than the other 4 players' time, and he's just going to leave over something that literally did not even kill him. He was not even in danger. It's so unbelievable. So anyway, just had to get that off my chest. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. And I hope that this is the end. Obviously, season 3 is starting, and no matter what, at the beginning of a season, there's obviously a lot more people just looking to get gear. And I hope that I will be able to continue to enjoy Alliance until 9.25. When I do plan on playing my Horde characters again, I'll be able to bring them over and play effectively only with Alliance players if I choose. We'll see how that goes. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.